What does it mean to live unlimited? For some, it's learning to navigate a world not built for you. For others, it's discovering that strength isn't found in perfection, it's found in perseverance. The Living Unlimited podcast celebrates life without limits, real stories, raw conversations, and practical wisdom from people living boldly with limb differences. Each episode shines a light on what's possible when we choose courage over comparison and creativity over conformity. Because life isn't about what's missing, it's about what's possible. Hi, Jessica, and hello to our listeners. We're so excited to have you back for another riveting conversation. And today we're going to talk about disability identity and what does that mean for us, and how do you deal with disability in terms of our identity? And this is a broad subject and it's a deep subject, and I'm sure this might not be the only conversation we have about it, but we will attempt to scratch the surface for you today. So, Jessica, first of all, how are you doing?
Well, it's been one of those Mondays. I always love Monday because it just feels like a new start to a wonderful week. But I felt like I've had a couple technical challenges today, which sometimes I always say it's been a Monday, but it's all good. I like Mondays. They're my favorite day of the week. Other than the technical challenges, things are good.
Oh my gosh, you're going to have to teach us that perspective shift on Mondays, because I'm sure not everyone agrees with Monday of the week, but it's a good perspective. Here in Hawaii, we have something called Aloha Fridays. So that's when people traditionally would wear their muumuus and their aloha shirts and just kind of welcoming and ringing in the weekend after a long week of work. But we're so excited to be with you all here today again with this topic about disability identity. Is so broad. I'm not even sure where to start. Would you like to give it a stab?
I think what helps me understand this is that a lot of times when people become disabled from a traumatic injury or some amputation and lose a limb, this becomes their whole identity. But I think you and I are going to be here and for the next few minutes just talk about that we are more than our limb difference, and we are more than not having limbs that other people have, that we just are defined by more than that, and our lives are a lot more.
Absolutely. The disability identity, and what I think we mean by identity, is what do we lead with? Who are we when we are out in the world? And when I think about identity, there's two different aspects to it. There's how we perceive ourselves, and then there's how others perceive us. And there is a distinction, I think, that is important to make. And sometimes they don't align, right? For me, let me start with here. In my mind's eye, and I'm talking to you guys and I'm moving my shoulders, but in my mind's eye, I'm talking with my hands. Like I can see what I'm doing with my hands when I'm talking. But obviously you're perceiving me now and all you see is me moving my shoulders. Like, what is she doing here? So there is that distinction. And we alluded to this in previous episodes, where how you think about yourself can also change how other people perceive you, right? So when we talked about confidence in an earlier episode, the more confidence we have in ourselves and we own ourselves and we accept ourselves, the more that others can also accept us, because we've set the tone for how this interaction is going. And so that is one aspect of identity that is important to talk about. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's so true, because it's amazing how what we put out there and how we carry ourselves really will cause a ripple effect and cause people to react in a certain way. And I remember you sharing that as well in a previous episode. And you had mentioned, Pauline, that in your mind, you're thinking you're moving your hands and gesticulating with the way that others do, though you don't have the physical hands. In your mind, you think of it like that. And the same thing is true for me, because I'm moving my toes around right now and my brain is wired to my feet. And it wasn't until the outside world told me that I'm something different that I realized that, like you said, we are different by the perception of others. And sometimes that for me is my reminder of my difference, because I don't think any different. I just go through my life doing what I have to do. And if I reach for something, I'm reaching for it with my toes, or sometimes I carry things under my chin, or I use my teeth a lot. And doing all these things are just like my normal. But to others who may not have seen that, it's something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I still am a firm believer that how we perceive ourselves and the identity that we hold within ourselves is the most important thing versus how other people perceive us. Okay.
Mhm.
So I do want to encourage you as you listen to this and watch us that you feel grounded in who you are. Now, we get to choose who we want to be in terms of our identity. And something that I often say to people is that disability is the context of my life, but it is not the content. What
Mhm.
do I mean by that? My disability is the backdrop. Like if you're watching a Broadway show, there's a backdrop there. And it can color the scene, right? Like it's daylight, or there's trees outside, or it's nighttime and there's stars, or it's stormy. And so the backdrop can set the tone, or it can add to the scene of the theater production, but it's not the theater production. It's not the characters and their voices and the circumstances of the play. So the backdrop can support those things, but it is not the only thing. So I feel like for me, my disability has obviously colored the way I walk through life, the way I have observed life. It might be from a different lens than other people without a limb difference. And so, yes, it's there, but everything I talk about isn't about my disability or my limb difference. How about you, Jessica? How do you perceive that?
Yeah, you're right. It's just we're much more than a limb difference. And though it's something so apparent, we are much more than that. And I think about also advantageous side of essentially a limb difference is that because, and you can probably agree with me, things weren't always easy for me to attain or achieve. So I became more creative as a result of that. So that's almost like an advantage being a creative person and finding solutions out of something that maybe someone may not have seen the solution. So that's like an aspect of me. So it's an aspect. Our disability is an aspect of who we are, but not ultimately everything we are.
What do you think are the different aspects, the other aspects of us as a whole for you?
Okay, well, I know that we are both women, and obviously you share the same commonality of being Filipina, and I am as well. So that's another thing there. We are, I guess, we're above 40. So it's another thing. Age is a thing, right? And I consider myself a dog mom, but not I don't have any kids, so I don't have any kids like you do, but I see myself as a professional woman who's been an entrepreneur now for almost 20 years, a speaker, and then a pilot. And there's another thing too is that a lot of people really do grab a hold of this identity as a pilot. And I'm not what most people envision. They think I'm flying these commercial airliners across the ocean or flying these big jets because maybe they're not familiar with small aviation, like general aviation. And I'm flying small planes and I don't do it as a profession. I do this as a hobby. And it's not something I'm paid to do. It's something that I just do like any other hobby in anyone's life, like a sport or like bowling or dance or something like that. It's a side thing. There are all these things that I can probably list off. What about you, Pauline? Tell me about the other aspects of your life.
Yeah, I think you named a few. I mean, we're women. We are Filipina and also white. So we have the multiracial thing happening in our worlds. And that's a whole other topic for a whole other time. But I'm sure there's stuff around that too, in terms of how we grew up and how people accepted us, not really figuring out, like, what are you Mexican? Are you like, what's happening here? But I love being biracial. Love it. And I'm a believer, say, in terms of my spirituality and God. And I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm like you, an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of similarities between us. And our identities, again, are not just one thing. It's not just a role. Like I know a lot of women could be like, I'm a mom and that's it. Like they can't see themselves out of just being a mom. Or perhaps, I know this happened a lot because I lived in Silicon Valley before we moved to Hawaii. Being laid off from a job was pretty normal. And people would have an identity crisis when they would get laid off because who are they if they weren't a engineer or a software developer or a business analyst? So I think we can get our identity caught up in a variety of things. And I think that when that happens, that can become a little bit I don't want to say the word dangerous, but it can make your world small and make you feel small because if that was to be taken away. So for example, if you loved running and you were an athlete and all of a sudden you were in a car accident and you no longer could run, who would you be? And I think that is the conundrum, I guess, that people can get themselves stuck into is if they take one aspect of who they are and make that their whole identity. And I think disability, of course, is going to color our perspective. How I view the world is going to be different, even from how you, Jessica, views the world, right? You can view
Mhm.
it at a higher level because you could stand, and I'm in a
Mhm.
wheelchair, so I'm obviously shorter. So even just that, right? So even though we both have limb differences, there are even distinctions between that. And so I think the purpose of this episode would be to help you see that you are more than just one thing, including your limb difference or disability.
Amen to that, I love it, because as long as we know that we are very complex, that we have strengths in other areas, so that if something does change in our life, circumstances change, whether it's due to trauma or something that has happened, then we can always lean on other areas of our life and know that we still have ways to express ourselves and we're not one-sided by any means.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you, Jessica, have you ever had the experience where someone forgets that you have a disability? Like they'll try to hand you something or they'll,
Oh, yeah, all the time, all the time. And I
yeah.
love that because I think like we were just this whole thing is about how we really put out there into the world something more than maybe the obvious not having arms and hands, and people realize they know that energy, they feel it, and they feel your presence and you being around them, and some people are so comfortable that they forget about reaching out and handing you something, and maybe they bring it to another area that is supposed to be for within hand's reach, but I usually reach for things between my chin and shoulder, so it's not in a position. And some people are just like having a hard time with how do I do this? Where do I put this? And I just have to advocate and say, oh, yeah, just right there. I'll use my chin and shoulder to grab a hold of it. But all the time, people forget.
Yeah.
And they'll maybe even reach out a hand for me to shake. And again, that's another awkward one, especially if it's a first time meeting and they feel like they've offended me, but I'm taking no offense to that because it happens all the time. And it's a good thing because we want people to be comfortable with us that they just forget about that.
So when I started in the speaking industry, a lot of people were going with the title motivational speaker. And I just did not feel aligned with the word motivational. It felt like a push word to me, like you have the energy to push something forward. And I couldn't figure out what it is, what title I wanted to identify with until I heard an interview with Wayne Dyer. And he said that the definition of inspire is in spirit. And I got for the first time because it happens to me all the time. Once people get to know me a little bit more, they'll be like, "Oh, come over." And then I'm the one who has to say, "Oh, are there steps there?" What, like all the things, right? I have to check. And they're like, "Oh, I always forget." And I'm like, "How do you forget?" And it happened to me one time when I saw Nick Vujicic, who also has a limb difference, and he was talking on stage here on the Big Island. And he's moving around. He's not in a wheelchair, and he's moving his body on this platform back and forth like he's walking. And I could experience that I forgot. It's like whatever he's missing just fades into the background.
Mm.
His spirit moves forward. And so for me, I landed on inspirational because I think that's what happens is that people are communing with our spirits. They see our spirits more than the physical body of it all. And
Mhm.
so I feel like that's, again, which is why I'm a big proponent, like how you identify yourself is going to definitely influence the way people see you and perceive you as well. I'm all for it. Let's all live in our spirits, not just in our bodies. Our bodies are important. Come to learn that, and it's been a learning curve for me. But our spirits are what people really hold on to. And when we come from that perspective, I really truly believe we're limitless.
I love it. It's so true. And it's not something that happens overnight. So for all of you out there listening and really want that for yourselves as well, Pauline and I had to work on it. As teenagers, I felt like I was my body as a teenager, right? Because that's where you are in life, and it's not something that you just are able to do right away to be that transparent to others that of your spirit. It's something that we constantly work on, and we constantly try to bring more of that out so that we can connect with others and be that for others.
That is what people are connecting to. Our spirit, our personalities, our character, how we show up. And that's something that requires courage because it also requires vulnerability. So when you put yourself out there and you're your most authentic self, not what you think they want to see, not what you think they want to hear, or what's going to make them comfortable, like your true self, you bring that to the table. And that is what people will connect with. And it really does change everything. And this whole disability identity, oftentimes, I don't know how you feel about this, Jessica, but the idea of feeling like I have to be the angry disabled person fighting for my rights. It's a lot. It feels heavy. And so it's something I've chosen not to adopt as part of my identity. And it's not a denial of my disability. It's just I've chosen to go a different route to advocate for myself.
It feels a lot lighter, and it just makes it a lot easier, I think, in the same way that authenticity is easier when you're trying to be someone else or be what the world wants you to be. It just takes so much energy, so exhausting at times. And then finally, when you're free to a point where you can say, I can be who I am, and if that's not okay with others, that's not my problem, that's their problem.
Yeah.
But it's so freeing. And I think we want that for everyone. And it just reminds me of that day that I gave up my prosthetic arms because I so wanted to be the expectation. I was born without arms and therefore I need those arms. And then finally one day I said, forget it. Who am I doing this for? This isn't for me. This isn't about an expression of myself like we're talking about today. And so the moment I let it go and left them behind, they've been in the closet ever since. And it's just like I felt like I'm being more authentic, I'm being real, and I can connect with people so much better.
Like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg for this topic. It could go much deeper. We would love to hear your thoughts. How do you identify in relation to your disability or limb difference? I would love to know how much of that plays into your daily life. Is it the context that adds to your life, or is it the content? And I'm not saying that there is no place for the person that advocates on behalf of the disability community with a little bit more assertion. There is a place for that. It's just something I've chosen not to do. I've chosen to do something different in my own way, in my own authentic way. And then that's the most important thing is that you stay true to yourself. And I love that, Jessica, that you said that's when we are truly free. When we can just slough off the idea that other people's opinions and judgments matter more than who we are as our authentic self, that is freedom.
They said there's only one way to live, but we were born to redefine it. We found light in the hardest places, turned the struggle into guidance. Every scar, every stair, every door once closed became the wind